if we're now looking at taking the client's heart rate, regularly we would, either like to have done this with a heart rate monitor, or even for someone like me to externally take his heart rate would have been much more efficient and reliable for us. But at the current times, we don't have this ability. So I did instruct him specifically how to take his heart rate, to find his pulse with his two fingers at his neck or on his wrist. He found it easiest to find the pulse in his neck, then timed him for 20 seconds and multiplied this number by 3 to give us an estimate. Obviously, I could have done the full 60 seconds, which would have given a bit of a more accurate reading, but we chose to do it this way. So we worked out his heart rate was around 66 beats per minute, which does fit him for the 18-year-old, fits him into the good category here, which is a great thing to see, nothing we are worried about at all. The average resting heart rate for someone of his age is between 70 and 73, so he is down the lower end of the good, almost in the great range here. In the graph, we can see where he lies. This is where someone below average would be. Someone excellent, he lies sort of in between the below average and the excellent, about where we would want him to be. No concerns or anything there. Moving on, we looked at his BMI. He is 5'10" and he weighed around here he weighed around 86-ish kilos to make it here on the scale. So his BMI was 27.2. We can work it out at, which does put him in about sort of slap bang in the middle of the overweight category, really. It's not where he wants to be, especially for a football player. He really wants to be in this healthy category here. He doesn't want to be in this yellow box, but it's not of major concern. It's definitely in an area where we are able to save this. We aren't overly concerned about health issues that arise from this. He's not on track to maybe be subject to diabetes or anything at the moment. He is, just overweight, really. He's just got a bit too much fat at the moment. So checking his waist to hip ratio, I didn't have the ability to measure him correctly. He wasn't using a particularly great tape measure that we would instruct that he use. However, obviously we did our best for the circumstances. He rated about 34 inches round his waist, about 39 inches round his hips. For a man, this works out as 0.87, which is good. He does fit into this category here, about slap bang in the middle of it. So that is something we aren't really concerned about. Looking at the graph here, we can see it would have to be much higher to put him at any form of risk. He's not quite in the excellent stage, but we wouldn't really expect him to be. For someone who does fit into the overweight category, we wouldn't particularly expect them to be in the excellent for the waist to hip ratio. But we weren't worried about this at all. It would probably go down if he were to lose some weight. Again, referring back to constants or choices in these things, there are certain constants that Harry can't control. Example, his age, his genetics, his gender, and his ethnicity. These things he just cannot control. However, there are things he can control. His blood pressure, his exercise amount, his good or bad cholesterol, alcohol, and his smoking. We've already discussed Harry's not really drinking very much alcohol. However, he is smoking, which isn't good for his long-term nor his short-term health. This will have serious detrimental issues on his lungs if he's not careful and he doesn't sort this out soon. He's also not exercising enough or as much as he'd like. We can then see by evaluating his health screening tests, we can look at his resting heart rate. So his resting heart rate was 66 beats per minute, which is considered good for his age. Nothing we're overly concerned about or worried about. But we have picked up on some areas to improve here. If he were to decrease this by 1 beat per minute, he would then fit into the great category, which is just, even better for his health. He's not someone he needs to be, but especially for someone, if he is looking to take this football further in life, if he is looking to become more of a professional athlete, he would need to have this down eventually. And if he does manage to decrease the blood flow around the body, then it becomes more efficient for him. Athletes need to have this lower resting heart rate so they can use their energy in other ways. He needs to have his energy in his muscles his working muscles in his arms and his legs. He doesn't want all of his energy to be going to pumping his blood around the body. Looking at his BMI, he's got a BMI of 22.7 at the moment. He is considered healthy or, I've changed slide. He is considered healthy or overweight depending on where you look. In the graph I had on the screen, he does fit slap bang in the middle of that overweight category. However, if you choose to use the NHS website, he then fits into the healthy category. So it does depend where we look, but obviously we're not just going to go with a lower result because it's easier to say so. We want to be safe, and we want to make sure he really is in that healthy range. So his weight could do with being worked at because he is only 5'10". Obviously, his weight wouldn't be. Your weight is very proportional to your height. His weight wouldn't be as much of a concern if he was, say, 6'2". But these things need to be within proportion, and his body mass index isn't quite what we'd like it to be at the moment. Having a healthy BMI also reduces the chances of developing diabetes, which we obviously don't want and we want to prevent. And especially if he continues to eat unhealthily, he did mention he was having quite a few takeaways. If he continues doing this, then his chances of developing diabetes will increase dramatically, which we don't want. Anyways, looking at his waist to hip ratio, it's worked out about 0.87, which is considered good for a man. Their waist to hip ratio is much smaller than that of a woman's. Their waist to hip is much closer in size. But this waist to hip ratio is a good indicator of visceral fat. So being able to decrease the waist to hip ratio decreases this. This visceral fat is fat that is stored in the abdominal area, which is closely linked to coronary heart disease, which we would like to prevent. We obviously don't want to prod this any more than needed. So yeah, as I mentioned already, men naturally have a higher number than women. So 0.87 to us isn't bad. Evaluation of the health screening questionnaire. For the rest of it, we have our goals. So the strength in the goals he gave us is he has achievable, clear goals. He knows what he wants to do. He wants to get back to the sport he loves. And by doing this, he only really wants to lose a small amount of weight loss and improve his strength on his injury, really. He's got high levels of motivation. He knows what he wants to do. He's got clear ways of getting there. He's not afraid to get started, really. Areas for improvement we're looking at is that he is unhappy with his current physique. This will decrease his mentality. If he suddenly starts seeing changes in his physique, he will therefore have more motivation and he will, get going. So he needs to stretch himself. A walk a week is very little. There is no way he is exerting himself doing this short walk a week. He needs to start walking far more often and start doing more strenuous activities along with this walking. And as I've already mentioned, once he sees this improvement, his motivation will continue to grow higher and he should only improve from there on out. Looking at his physical activity, we can see that he's willing to work hard. He has experience at the gym. He wants to join back to the gym he was mentioning, which is a really good start for us. So once he's in the gym, we can look at various things in there. We can look at getting him doing some resistance training, specifically tailoring it at his strengths. So he won't have any issue with upper body strength at the moment and practicing his upper body strength, as there is no injury there he's trying to avoid. We don't want to overexert his lower body at the moment. However, it's starting small and building this strength up. Areas of improvement, main concern here is his physio for his ACL. We don't want to just jump in deep end and start pushing 50 or 60 kg, even more than that. We don't want to start with that. And he only does cardio once a week. If we're even classing this walking as cardio, it's not exertive or anything. He is otherwise sedentary. He's only really taking himself to and from college, which isn't a walk at all. And especially in the current circumstances we're living in, even this isn't really happening. So he needs to start getting used to exercising more often again. It will be a difficult adjustment for him, but it is something he needs to get back into. Looking at nutrition, he eats foods that are high in fibre, which is a really good thing, something we like to see. He eats 5 portions of fruit and veg every day, which is another great way to have a balanced diet. And he doesn't skip meals, which should be really helpful in the long run. He's getting his metabolism started early, so we don't have concerns here with him skipping meals. We just need to look at sort of snacks he's having in the day, so long as he's not sort of really heavily snacking between meals. He also has areas of improvement here is that he has unsteady weight. It is fluctuating, which is not a good thing. He gains and loses weight randomly depending on his diet, depending on his exercise levels. And he doesn't control these saturated fats or sugary foods, and he doesn't drink enough water. Not drinking enough water, he's going to be dehydrated. He's not going to have the ability to complete the activities he's wanting to complete. He'll end up with headaches, various other factors that come along with not drinking enough water. Lifestyle strengths here is that he isn't really drinking alcohol, and it's never excessive. Nothing that needs changing in his lifestyle. He gets the recommended 8 hours sleep with no difficulties here, and he has a track record of really good mental health. So we aren't looking to get his GP involved in this way at all. Areas for improvement here, though. He does want to work to quit smoking. I'll talk about later with various methods. He's not excessively smoking, so this shouldn't be too hard to wean him off of, especially as he gets back to a more active lifestyle. He's probably more likely to just give up anyway and go back to the way he was. Especially if he starts running again or playing sports again, he will struggle to do this if he does continue smoking, so he'll see the benefits of quitting here. He's living quite a bored lifestyle at the minute, not just to be able to do anything. He needs to get back to more of an interesting reality. He needs to start doing different forms of exercise. He's snacking through boredom, which is never a good way to start eating. It's going to be the main reason he's not progressing in any way at the moment. His daily steps are only 4,000 as well, which are far too low for what we want to see, and these can easily be improved. All he needs to do is go out for more of a walk in a day, not just walking around the house and around school. If he gets out, puts himself out there, he'll easily get these steps up. He just would need to keep a track on it. His physical health evaluation strengths is he has a long history of playing and enjoying sports. We don't need to worry about getting him back into these sports. He knows he enjoys them. He knows he loves them. He has external motivation. His external motivation here is to get him back to football. He's not just intrinsically motivating himself. He has extrinsic motivations as well. He can also run a short distance already, which is a really good start. However, he does need to start being more active to restore to his previous health. He can't just magically click his fingers and be back to where he was. He's got to start up slow and work this up, slowly using sort of intervals, progression overload. He does need physio, but that's a separate issue and something that can easily be sourced out. But he is sedentary most days at the moment. Now, if we're looking at his recommendations and strategies for nutritional improvement, we know he eats too many unsaturated fats, he's got unsteady weight, he eats too many sugary foods, he doesn't drink enough water, and he smokes. The strategies I've come up with to improve these sorts of things is if he starts keeping a food diary, so we can see when he isn't eating right, and he can also check in with me at the end of every week. If he suddenly starts keeping track, especially there's great apps on your phone that can start tracking how much you're eating, how many calories you're putting in your body. If he can see that he is eating too much, then he might even be able to stop himself before I even need to, because he will look at the numbers and he'll go, oh, I didn't realise that's how much I've eaten today. He also needs to eat less sugar and less saturated fats. So we can easily sort this out by using replacements and fresh produce. Just stop eating for convenience, stop having takeaways, replacing easy meals. If he's eating cereal in the morning, that's great, but he needs to be eating wholemeal cereals, not sort of chocolate cereals and things. We also want to use various methods for him to quit smoking. He can try things like patches, chew gum, and he could use things like reward systems. If every day he goes without a cigarette, he could use a reward. So these can be all sorts of things. These can be money incentives, food incentives, sort of trip incentives, anything that he would benefit from. You can get apps on your phone. There are, all sorts of things you can join to quit smoking.
We would want him to stick to his calorie plan, to stop his weight fluctuations, and try a weekly weigh-in. See if he's gone down or increased in weight. This would be really helpful for him to see where